Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Jamf Breakfast Club. My name is Craig Smith. I am the Senior Education Manager for Jamf for the UK and Ireland region, and I'm joined this morning by Jordan Japal from Caligo. Good morning, Jordan.
Morning, Craig. How are things?
Yes, very well, thank you. Nice and early start this morning. So thanks everyone for joining us on the live stream today. For a reminder of those who are joining us for the first time, the Breakfast Club is a monthly series from Jamf where we're bringing together educators, education technology companies like we are today to discuss everything that is Apple in education. And welcome back to those that are joining us again who've been to some of our previous sessions. So today we're here to talk about a third-party app, something we've not done so far in the series. So Jordan, I wonder if you can just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Caligo, the company, its origin, what the app does, before we sort of dig right into today's content.
Sure, not a problem. Thanks, Craig. So Caligo is a handwriting and spelling app that's used obviously on iPads. Originally, it started in France, actually, which is a really interesting story. So there was a tender by the French Ministry for Education that they had a real need for handwriting over there. And it went really successfully over there. So the company over there looked to branch out into the UK, hence us coming to the UK. From there, it's just gone from strength to strength in the UK. So, we're Department for Education approved. We've been highly commended at the BET Awards as well. But essentially, being an app that is for spelling and handwriting, its goal is to kind of support the great work that schools are already doing on paper by using technology to support that. So we're not here to replace pen and paper. We're here to support that. Through the development process, we developed it for Apple as a priority, just because the tech's so quick and easy to use. We find that most schools that we kind of work with tend to prefer to use it. So it made sense for us to kind of, get the app ready for all Apple devices ASAP. That's kind of where it started, really.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, actually. A lot of schools that I speak to, either school leaders, parents as well, there's sometimes a concern when a school or an organisation is introducing a lot of technology into the classroom that somehow it's going to mean that there's no writing in books and would eradicate physical materials again. But I think that's a really important point to sort of pull out from the office. The goal is, as you say, it's not to eradicate paper. It's not to stop children writing in books. It's really to, I guess, kind of blend the technology with the traditional teaching and learning methods that obviously work very well. I wonder if you maybe just touch on that a little bit more and how exactly would that work in a sort of classroom type scenario?
So what we see a lot of teachers using, so we're trying to go a bit more cross-curriculum. So recently we've added our Caligo library, which has loads of resources for teachers to make their lives easier. But a lot of the resources on there are kind of spelling lists of keywords that are in different topics other than kind of English reading, writing, literacy. So we're branching out into science, history, geography. So what we find, one teacher was telling us that they used one of the Caligo lessons for science. They were doing an electricity-based lesson in the afternoon, circuits where they crocodile clips and connecting them all that kind of stuff. And we've got lists of the keywords for those topics. So, circuit, component, buzzer, all those kinds of words. And so they used Caligo for 20 minutes prior to their science lesson. So they were kind of practicing their handwriting, practicing the spelling of those key topic words, but it's feeding into the lesson they're teaching later on. So it's, and then when they're after that lesson, they would then write a report in their actual science textbook. They've already known how to spell those keywords. They've practiced the if they're doing cursive handwriting, for example, they know how all the letters join together for that word. And so when they're writing it in their textbooks after the practical lesson, they're seeing better results. The teachers, in terms of it makes it easier to read, firstly, which is probably one of the best things that they like to see.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, for when it comes to marking, etc. But I love that idea that you're almost sort of warming them up for the lesson. Yes, they're learning their handwriting, but as you say, they're learning about some of the key terminology, some of those keywords that obviously is probably something like science. They're not sort of everyday words that we would use, so they're probably quite sort of quite alien to the children that are putting them together. So I absolutely love that. Now you mentioned developed for Apple as a priority, and obviously we see Apple, and we support Apple only, as you know, and we've been sort of helping schools sort of deploy thousands of iPads, particularly in the last couple of months. And one of the great things I think about the iPad when it comes to the stylus, because I think Caligo is best when it's used with a stylus, and we've obviously got the fantastic Apple Pencil here, which is probably arguably one of the sort of best on the market. However, some of the feedback that we sometimes hear from schools is it can be a little bit sort of price restrictive. Budgets are obviously tight. And what I love from Caligo is you've sort of identified this and you've really responded to that. I wonder if you just touch on that a little bit.
Sure. So yeah, we recently brought out the Caligo Stylus, like you say, and the prime goal for that, it was purely because teachers were saying to us, we love Caligo, we really want to use it in the classroom, we can't afford Apple styluses. So we took a look and sort of how can we develop something that, to be honest, the main goal is to make it accessible for schools. We're not bothered about the cost. We want to get it as cheap as we can, but we want it to do pretty much what an Apple Pencil can do, because again, for Apple Tech, they're the best ones out there. There's a few other ones out there that we kind of used to support as well, but a lot of them had things that you could pull off as a child. The power button could pull off, wires are exposed, all that kind of stuff, which isn't great. So we wanted it to be compact because the Apple Stylus is great for that. There's nothing that you can pull off, but like you say, the price. So we developed the Apple Stylus. It's probably about a quarter of the cost, the Caligo Stylus, of the Apple Stylus. It's pretty much got everything that the Apple Stylus has, apart from one small thing called pencil pressure, which is where the technology of Apple does come into play. They've got a really great bit of technology in the nib of the stylus that recognizes the pressure that you're putting on the iPad. So we don't have that in ours. But the one thing that I say, and this is just personal preference, but I think ours is better for one thing. So the Apple Stylus, it connects through Bluetooth. So you have to pair it to a device. The Caligo Active Stylus, it doesn't have to be paired to one device. So I could literally be writing on my iPad. You're sitting next to me, Craig. I can transfer across to your iPad with no need to kind of partner it up to your iPad. So it's, we see the teachers that use it, they have like the basket with all of the styluses in. The children just grab whichever one. They don't need their own specific one to their device. Again, in schools that aren't necessarily one-to-one with devices, it means that student can pick up any device, grab a stylus and go.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that. And I know that there's other ones on the market there, and I think there was some feedback that you had before where, as you say, picking things off. And so I think I love how you've sort of responded to that and provide something that is really affordable. I want to talk a little bit now about how and when you would introduce Caligo into the curriculum. Really, we've saw a lot of technology go out, as I said, over the last sort of 18 to 24 months. We've seen a lot of technology probably land at schools' doors, which on one hand is great. We've got access now. We've got technology. A lot of stuff funded through the Department for Education, for example. What we found is there's a lot of schools coming to us who weren't sure how to set this stuff up and how to manage it. So once we get all that kind of piece, those sort of foundations in place, then we start looking at what we can actually do with the technology. So from a Caligo perspective, how typically would, say, a primary school introduce this? When would it be being used? How often, etc.?
So first things first, with any new school that's never kind of looked at us before, we give them a 6-week trial, so they can look at trialing the app and figuring it out. With that, we tend to see it being used in small groups so that they can kind of get some data and see how well it performs. And then when they roll it out school wide, it tends to be sort of reception up to year 2, year 3. They use it class wide, sometimes in year 4 as well. And then when you get to sort of 5 and 6, they use it on an intervention basis for children that are really struggling with handwriting. That being said, we have worked with some SEN schools that are all the way through. We recently got contacted by just a standard secondary school that wanted to use it in sort of year 7 and 8 because of COVID, that kind of they were spending, you know, sort of a year and a half typing everything with their laptops at home, so they hadn't really done much handwriting, so they've kind of fallen behind.
Of course, yeah.
So every school has different needs, basically. So it's kind of a tough one to say, but that's kind of how we see it being used generally. We also recently launched what we're calling the nursery project. So we're sort of using the app in a nursery, and then seeing how that implicates and how that, you know, affects children's handwriting as they go into the later year groups. So yeah, so it's a hard question really to kind of say, you know, a definitive this is who it's aimed at, because different schools have different needs, different children have different needs, and we're here to kind of fit where the school kind of feels that we fit, to be honest.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's got that flexibility that it can fit into a lot of different needs based on on what the school or that individual, as you say, might require.
Exactly.
I know that you personally, you mentioned the impact trial. I was probably going to talk about this at the end, but obviously you can sign up for a trial as a teacher. So if you just want to go and have a go, you can sign up for a 30-day trial. But I think if you're anyone that's maybe a school leader or look after maybe a trust or something like that, I think the impact trial is really, really key. You know, I think any technology now, schools, organizations want to see that evidence of impact. You know, they want to see that, which is quite rightly so. You know, investing money, and it's, I say, budgets are always tight. I wonder if you could just maybe touch on a couple of examples of impact. We will share some links later on where you can actually go and see some examples of some children's work. But I wonder if you maybe just give us a couple of examples off the top of your head.
Yeah, definitely. So with one school that we work with in London, we went to see them in, I think it was October time, and the teacher there, so I think they were a year 3 class. They've been using it 3 20-minute sessions a week, which is what we'd say is our average. You know, you get some using it a bit more.
Yeah.
We say sort of 2 or 3 20-minute sessions to get results. And this teacher's had a student that was performing at a year 1 level because of the kind of, you know, they've had 2 years out of the classroom not practicing handwriting. With their impact trial alone, so 6 weeks of using Caligo, they caught back up, so they jumped 2-year groups just by using Caligo in terms of ability, and now they're performing at the same level as some of the rest of the class, performing at the level that they're expected to be performing at. So you'd hope that, you know, as this academic year goes on for that child particularly, they might end up performing above the level that they are. So it's kind of helping to close that gap that COVID's given us. I think that's a really nice case study.
Yeah, and you mentioned sort of the gap really, and you know, we've sort of saw you know, a lot of children, a lot of schools sort of fall behind through no fault of their own, of course. Looking at how it can be used at home, you know, we've had a lot of, as I said, schools, multi-academy trusts, local authorities, where you know, home learning has already been on the agenda anyway, which is fantastic. So it's been, I guess, maybe an extension of that. It's probably accelerated it for some organisations. How can that be used at home?
So the way that children access the app is through QR codes. I think that's quite a popular thing in kind of the edtech sector now. You know, loads of different companies using QR codes. They're really easy because you just use your camera and scan it. So we tend to see, it depends obviously on the school, the children, whether parents have the tech, but if they've got an iPad or, you know, other device at home, they scan the QR code. For the teachers, you can set either classwork or homework, or you can just set a lesson that kind of does both. So it's up to you kind of what they're accessing at home. We've also got a little, what we call a kind of like free practice mode. So it means that as a teacher, if you're not setting a lesson, you could just direct them to that, and it's a bit more of a fun mode. You know, there's spelling lists for things like Disney, superheroes, all the kind of fun stuff really. So it's not curriculum aligned, but they're still practicing their handwriting and spelling and things. So That's how they access it at home. But then I had some really good feedback the other day from a teacher actually that said, you know, quite a few of the children in their class don't have devices at home.
Yeah.
They're practicing Caligo at home. We've got for teachers a really, really in-depth feedback analysis system. So they have on like a scroller, an A to Z red, amber, green scale, how each letter is formed by the student. And so this teacher was saying they noticed that this one particular student was struggling with 3 or 4 letters. So they set them paper-based exercises to do at home. So it is kind of still, like I say, supporting that paper. And it means that they can still practice at home using the feedback from Caligo to help give those parents support and, you know, sort of say to the parents, this is their homework, practice these letters. Whereas in the classroom, you know, teachers haven't got 30 sets of eyes to watch every student form every single letter. Of course. There's no way you're going to pick up everything.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I saw some demos of it before. You talk about that. I think the AI within the app is really powerful in terms of it knows, as you say, what letters maybe students are struggling with, or is it certain aspects of cursive. I think that's fantastic. You get that RAG kind of status, as you say, and you can actually set work really easily based on that. I think the pressures on teachers around marking and all that sort of stuff is huge. It always kind of has been. But if the technology can really help alleviate some of that pressure in terms of giving you that really nice sort of graphical dashboard, you almost see it. Yeah, I wonder if you can maybe just touch on a little bit more around the teacher's kind of view of the app and how they plan those lessons, because I think it's really nice.
Sure. So, like I've said, I think I said a bit before, so we've got this Caligo lesson library of resources with different spelling lists and things like that. But as a teacher, depending on kind of how proactive you want to be and whether you want to use that for all your lessons, whether you want to use it for some of your lessons or none at all, we've got a lesson creating section as well. So it basically, you know, you set which kind of handwriting style you teach them, whether it's cursive, pre-cursive, lowercase, capital letters. We've got a couple of other exercises that are, you know, sort of tracing line loops for, you know, that writing stamina. And so you set kind of which lessons you want the children to partake. And as soon as you set that, it goes to their QR code over the Wi-Fi of the school. And then next time they scan that, they get access to that lesson. So it's really, really easy to kind of create custom lessons based on whatever you're teaching in the classroom. If you've got a spelling list, you know, saved somewhere, you can copy and paste it in, and it just, you know, puts them in this word, this word, this word. So there's tons of ways that you can use it. And we've got a really great support team that help teachers. You know, we've got people that have worked in the classroom previously on the support team, so they can give you really good ideas as to how to use it. And then, like I say, the kind of feedback that you get from it. So other than that kind of red, amber, green scale, you get replayable videos as well. So you can see exactly how each letter was formed in real time. One that I always like to mention, I know it's quite a common one, is a lot of students form the letter O back to front. On paper, you couldn't even tell. So they're doing lowercase, for example, forming that O back to front. On Caligo, you can see that they're doing that, and it means that when they get onto that cursive style, you can correct that before they start needing to join that O to the next letter. So it's really nice with things like that as well to kind of help you as a teacher see where your students are struggling, and then you can plan your lessons around that. So you might do words beginning with O as your next lesson for 4 students that are really struggling with the letter O, or you know, there's loads of different ways that you can use it, which I think is really exciting, because 2 teachers in the same school could be using it completely differently, and we do see that. And you know, whenever I'm in schools, I always get really good ideas from teachers. You know, this is how I'm using it. I'm like, oh wow, I haven't thought of it like that. So yeah, it's great for that.
No, I love it. I love it. And as you mentioned, you know, some great ideas there from teachers that you're learning, but I know also that you offer sort of teacher training as well, and you're helping to onboard those schools and introduce teachers to the app. You know, a lot of that is will be delivered quite similar to what we're doing today. I just wonder if you maybe touch on some of how you help teachers get up to speed and get up and running with the app.
Yeah, so obviously with COVID and things like that, you know, it has to be mentioned on these kind of things. We've done a lot of virtual stuff, you know, Zoom calls, etc., where we help the teachers get set up. We do teacher training, but it's not one of those sorts of things where, you know, you hear from us, you get set up, and you never hear from us again. You know, we're always available for Zoom calls, teacher training. As we're kind of going back into classrooms a bit more now, you know, we do visits to schools. You know, like I say, I've visited a few schools this half term, and you know, we'll pop our heads in, say hello if we're in the area as well. So even if you don't necessarily need anything, don't worry, we'll be there to say hi. So yeah, we always give that constant support, I think, which is really great. And in terms of getting things set up, it is really, really easy. You know, I think that's kind of where you guys at Jamf come in. You know, it's really easy to get the app on the devices. There's, you know, nothing complex with that. So yeah, it's pretty easy, to be honest, is the takeaway.
Fantastic. That's what we like. Easy is good. I know we've got some IT professionals on the tuning in today. So from an IT perspective, is there anything onerous to set up? You know, you mentioned it's easy for teachers. Is there any sort of complex administration to get set up? I know that obviously it's an app, so there's no sort of hardware or anything required, obviously, other than the devices themselves. But IT, what do they need to know? Is there anything that you'd call out there?
Nothing too complex, like I say. It's just a case of we send over the latest version of the app. They you know, they kind of download that and push that out to all the devices. Once it's there, that's pretty much it done. It's they can then hand it over to the teachers. We tend to find people that set up the kind of school's account varies completely. Sometimes you'll have head teacher, sometimes you'll have the IT technician, sometimes you'll have the head of English or head of literacy, and they're kind of the person that's in charge of the account. But it really varies, because that side of things is really easy. It's just a case of adding all the other teachers by popping their email address in. Nothing complex, and then the teachers can go and create their own lessons and things. So from an IT perspective, you know, like I say, it's nothing out of the norm.
Great. I'm sure those tuning in from IT will be very, very pleased to hear that. So we've talked about obviously the teachers, we've talked about IT now, we've talked obviously about the impact from a student perspective, but in your experience, you know, do students enjoy using this? Do pupils like it? Do they think it's fun? Is it almost like they don't even probably realise that they're learning sometimes?
I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there. That's the main feedback we get. Again, so when I was in the school, I keep saying this, but when I was in the school the other week, I was watching a lesson be taught on Caligo. I think we put some pictures on our Twitter and things like that as well. And it was just when we'd launched our Stylus, so we went to a school to deliver the first set of Caligo styluses to a school and watched a lesson be taught with them. And it was my first time seeing it in the classroom, obviously because of COVID and things like that. And it was just great because, you know, the children are writing and they're getting, so if they get letters correct, they have it's like a red, amber, green scale of success. And if they get it all the way around with the green, they get a little gold star, noise comes on the iPad. And, you know, every 2 minutes in the classroom, you're hearing this noise, you look over, the child's got gold star, they're grabbing their teacher, you know, they're going, miss, look, I've got this. So I think, and another bit of feedback from that same teacher we got a couple of weeks later, she said that the students are saying, when can we get Caligo back out? Which, you know, to me, that says it all, that the children want to do it. One child apparently asked, can they have Caligo for homework?
Oh, okay.
I mean, when I was
quite an endorsement.
Homework, but you know, again, I think that's really, really interesting. That kids want to use it, basically.
Totally. Yeah, I love that fact that you get that instant feedback. Literally, you know that you've got that positive reinforcement that you've done something really well, and I think that is so important. That almost like, your kids play games and stuff, and they get that all the time. So it almost sort of is akin to that. The sort of let's say that positive reinforcement that they get, and kind of instant. Yeah, I'm doing something right. So that's really, really cool. You mentioned the Stylus again. I know we're getting quite a few questions coming in, so please keep popping those through. But I'm going to ask these ones just now, just because we've been talking quite a bit about the Stylus. But obviously, people are really interested in it, which is great. I think people will have been sort of dipping into your website, will have been chatting, and they're like, I can't find it on there. We want to buy it. Where do we get it? How much does it cost? All that kind of stuff. I wonder if you can just touch on that, because people have been quite excited about this.
Yeah. So in terms of purchasing the stylus, you just purchase it directly from us. We don't have like a shop on our website for it at the minute.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think towards the end, you'll pop my email in the chat or something like that.
Of course,
so get in touch with me. I can sort out all your stylus needs. We for this half term, actually, the popularity of it, we've ran out. So we're getting our new shipment in January. So there's still, there's, if you're going to place an order, you'll get it in January. So ready for the new term. In terms of cost, so this is where the key comes in compared to the Apple stylus. So the cost of the Caligo stylus is £25 excluding VAT.
Yep. Okay.
Quite a difference, yeah. Good price. We tend to see, depending on what sort of level of devices schools use, whether they're one-to-one or whether they have a few class sets of devices that they share around. Generally with the stylus, I mean, one school that I was speaking to the other week, so they purchased 2 class sets of the Caligo stylus, so 2 sets of 30. And then they also purchased 5 Apple styluses. So that's where I think I quite like that idea, because they were saying the Apple stylus, we think it will be really good for interventions. So for those students, like I say, the pencil pressure, they're really struggling with the pencil pressure. We can set them up with an Apple stylus for a few lessons, to practice that. But class-wide, we're going to use the Caligo stylus. So you're using that kind of the best of both worlds, basically.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, your colleague Joshua did mention to me before that they've been incredibly popular, and the stock that you had sort of kind of flew off the shelves pretty much. You mentioned they can obviously come to you guys direct. I know that you work with a number of the Apple authorized education specialists, as do we. So if you're working with one of them, you can also reach out to those guys and for not just your devices, but for Jamf, for Caligo as well. I know you work quite closely with the likes of MCC. They're based up in the northwest, but do provide solutions across most of the UK, and there is other ones there as well, the likes of GTRS and stuff. So go on to the Apple site if you're interested to know there. So yeah, please keep the questions coming. Someone's asking about, so how do you get the app? How much does it cost? All that kind of stuff as well. We mentioned it's easy to deploy. It's on the App Store. You can purchase it through Apple School Manager, then deploy it through Jamf. But in terms of the cost of the app and how does that work?
So the app itself from the App Store is free, basically, to make it easier for the schools to deploy it. What the schools are paying for is the QR codes, essentially. So that's where kind of, everything sits, and the kind of back end for the teachers, etc. It's a subscription-based service, so we do 1 year and 3 year subscriptions, which vary in price. With our 3 year, basically the third year is half price. That's kind of the benefit of committing for a bit longer. But yeah, the subscriptions are based on the number of children using the app. So it starts from a 0 to 60, and then they go up in increments of 60 until you get to 180. If you get to 180, it's just 180 plus however many students pass that.
So it becomes like a site license almost at 180. Exactly.
That's kind of for individual schools. Obviously, for trusts, we kind of work a bit differently. If they're going to be rolling it out across, sort of 8-10 schools, we look at kind of pricing from there, because it's many more licenses. But yeah, if you are a trust and you want to kind of do that, with the trusts, we recommend doing the trial in maybe 2 or 3 schools to manage it a bit easier, and then you can look at rolling it out. So you've got that free trial, then you can look at rolling it out further from there as well.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, I mean, it's really popular now. The subscriptions model is similar to what Jamf do as well. And it just means that any of those updates, any new developments, you're going to get that right, because it's an ongoing model. So I think it's common nowadays, certainly the preferred way of doing things. Someone's asking about, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, with updates and things like that as well, we often do half-termly updates that are kind of not massive things that change, but small things, and you get notifications on the teacher side that kind of say, there's this new update. We've got a few coming over Christmas, so if you're looking to start trialing in January, keep an eye out for those. And then we usually have a big update over the summer when you guys are kind of not using it. So over the summer, we come back in every September. It upgrades basically.
Absolutely, absolutely. Question coming in just asking about, again, this stylus is like it's so popular. I think you're going to have to tell your suppliers to start making more of them.
Yeah.
But they're asking, can it be used for other things? Is it just the Caligo app, or can you use it with other apps and other? Can you just use it with the iPad?
Yeah, it's the same as any stylus out there. You can use it for anything. It's just an active stylus at the end of the day. I
Yeah.
use it quite commonly in meetings, I have my iPad out and go on notes and just use it to write my notes. So it can be used for literally anything. If they're doing, sort of, I know there's some kind of like drawing apps out there that I think are free of charge on the App
Yep.
Store, like colouring in.
Mhm.
They can use it
Oh
to
yeah.
in the lines. And I
Yep.
think what's really interesting about that is a lot of people see that as kind of a game or playing, but what you've got to remember is they're using a pen and they're practicing that pencil grip and practicing that pressure and things like that, and they're just colouring between the lines. So yeah, there's loads of great ways that it can be used. It's not exclusive to Caligo at all.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, that's obviously where you're getting, again, that kind of return on investment, that value for money. It's, I think it's a great price point, and you can use it for lots of different things. We see a lot of schools doing a lot of digital artwork and stuff like that as well. So,
Yeah.
fantastic for that, I'm sure. I mean, do you see like, you mentioned obviously during what's been going on, pandemic and stuff like that, where pupils haven't been writing in books. So as you say, that pencil grip is so important, and just even trying to get those basic skills back. So I love that you mentioned nothing, although it might seem like it's just a bit of fun, it's actually can be really impactful and can be really important to get that sort of muscle memory back almost.
Yeah.
Of how you do that again. I think that is really, really key. We're coming, I think, up to the end now. So if you've got any more questions, if you can put them in. In fact, we've got another one coming in actually. Again about the stylus. Oh yeah, okay, right. Can the stylus be used with traditional pencil grips, or is that built into the design?
So they can, the pencil grips that you slide over a
Yeah.
pen. We tested this in a school recently, and they do slide over the Caligo stylus. It's a snug fit, so you do have to wiggle it a little bit, but it does fit over it.
Not a bad thing.
And I found that really, really key when we were in school, because I used to use a pencil grip when I was in school because I'm dyspraxic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that'd be a great little kind of thing that you can add on.
And I've saw them in different colours as well. If that's your one, you've got the blue one, you've got the red one, whatever it happens to be. Preference of football team there, I don't know, but yeah, I think that's an important point. Okay, yeah. So I mean, I guess we've got probably another sort of 10 minutes. I guess I want to ask you now about looking ahead, right? Let's look to the future. What's I guess, what do you think's next for Caligo? Absolutely, but also where you see the evolution of how technology is being used in the classroom and the future sort of technology's place in education. I definitely think that we've kind of been forced almost to sort of jump ahead quite a bit, which I think is great. There'll be a lot of schools there that are already on board with that. There'll be some that's maybe they've had to sort of adjust to that. But I guess the future, what's kind of next for Caligo, and what, in your opinion, what do you see in terms of the future?
Yes, I think in terms of ourselves, we're planning to launch a couple of different. I don't know whether there'll be different apps yet, or whether they'll be integrated into the Caligo app. These are early stage kind of things, but we're looking at how we can incorporate maths. So I mean, it's being built at the minute. It's another AI kind of based engine that analyzes a student's working out, and if they've used the correct working out to get to the correct answer, and then whether they've got the correct answer as well. Obviously, that's really, really, tech heavy. So I don't know when. We've got no date on that, but that's really exciting for the future. And then we're also in the more immediate future, we're shortly about to start piloting an SEN version of Caligo, so tailored specifically to SEN children and SEN schools. So that's really exciting. So I think that kind of ties into the kind of second part of the question is we kind of see not only ourselves but tech in general being used in more subjects that you might not necessarily think that they're going to be used in. And then I think it's just a case of the kind of exam boards catching up, because, you know, at the minute it's great practicing Caligo handwriting because you're going to be using that on the kind of exams writing on paper. Yeah. Eventually, you know, I'd hope to see everything being digital. That's not to say that there won't be a need for pen and paper still. Like I say, you know, in kind of working life and things like that, it will be. But I think tech's just going to be used a lot more widespread across the classroom. So it makes sense that some of the examinations would have to be whether they're able to use that tech correctly, and, you know, because we're going that way in the world. When these children, you know, head out of school and into the big wide world, they're going to need to know. We're going to need to know that they know how to use those tools properly because they're going to be using them in their workplace. So I think that's kind of where I see. I hope that makes sense. I think that was it.
Yeah, no, it does. Absolutely does. I think the exam boards are always a big one. It's something that I used to hear a lot. Is, you know, we still need to write. Exams are still written. Absolutely, completely legitimate. But I think, like you say, at the exam boards, I think we'll eventually get on board with it. We've already saw in higher education, not all exams, but a lot of practical exams, a lot of exams in like medical education, for example, have moved completely to iPad. In Scotland was SQA, but they've gone through a bit of a kind of change.
Mm-hmm.
There was certain exams that could be done digitally as well, and this is where actually we've come in and did quite a lot of work, particularly with some of the universities, where we can actually provision device for like exam mode type of thing. So locked in a certain app, you can't do spell check and autocorrect and all that kind of stuff. So you're still getting all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's something that I think will come into play more and more. But we're almost having to wait. The tech's already there. We're just having to wait for the people that sort of administer this stuff to kind of catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's absolutely key. We've got another question coming in actually. Have you seen schools? We talk about this kind of app smashing type approach where they're integrating apps with each other and using them in kind of conjunction. So have you seen schools app smash with Caligo and other apps like, for example, Book Creator to showcase digital handwriting? So I don't know if you're familiar with Book Creator. Helps you create digital books, but it's like multimedia. You can do pictures and video and obviously text and writing and stuff like that as well.
It's something that particularly this academic year, as things are going back to a bit more normal in the classroom, we're looking into different integrations with sort of 5 or 6 different ed tech companies and how that will look. So I think the kind of it's a two-parter. So the two complexities that we're seeing is firstly how we envisage it looking and how they would envisage it looking, and then secondly the actual kind of how will it technologically work. You know, that I can always help with ideas for the kind of creative process, but the technical side that's the team. So it's something we're looking into, but as it stands, the short answer is no. There's nothing there yet, but we are looking at that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got something called the Jamf Marketplace, where it's our official integrations. So, and we've got education as a category on there. So we work with some other apps like Shobi, who I think you're chatting with those guys as well. So that's like kind of in terms of like the idea is like paperless classroom, but you would hand in your work and it would be marked, and there's nice rich feedback with voice and video and all that kind of great stuff. And again, it's not to necessarily eradicate writing in books, because typically what happens there, children would take a picture of it, upload it to their class, and then the teacher would mark it digitally. And again, can use that fantastic Caligo Stylus that we keep chatting about. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like combining those apps and the APIs and trying to integrate stuff, I think it's where a lot of stuff is going right now. I know it's really key for Jamf to make it really easy for teachers and for schools. The idea that you just take a device out of the box, switch it on, already set itself up. You've got all the apps on there that you want to use. They're already set up. Your classes are there. I mean, that really is the sort of dream scenario where you don't really have to do anything. It's all there and set up for you. Because at the end of the day, teachers want to go on and do what they do best. And they don't want to worry about setting up technology. So yeah, we're kind of coming to the end. I just want to maybe take the last couple of minutes to chat about just to remind people where they can find out about Caligo, where they can maybe see some examples of the work, and where they can go to download the app, get a free trial, and I think most importantly, go on and find out about that impact trial.
So I think after this, so it'll be my email address. Reach out to me. My job at Caligo is onboarding new schools. So anyone that's interested, reach out. Whether that's Stylus, whether that's the app. You can follow us on Twitter. I think you guys at Jamf are going to share a couple of our really good case studies on Twitter that we've kind of shared recently. Take a look at those. Give us a follow. We're always active and sharing some really cool stuff. That's kind of the two kind of fundamental ways to get in touch. And on our website, you will notice there's a try for free button that takes you to the 30-day free trial, so you can sign up for that. If you want the 6-week impact trial, just get in touch with me, and it's a case of we'll actually go in depth and show you how to set up your account and things like that, and then we'll get you started.
Amazing. I know that we've shared your email address in the comment section, so we'll have a look at that there if you want to get in touch with Jordan. We won't have a January version of the Breakfast Club, but we will instead be at BET, as you can see on your screen there. So come and see us at BET in January, the 3 days there. I know that yourselves are also going to be at BET at the is it the Futures Zone, Future Stage?
Yeah, BET Futures,
BET Futures. So yeah, please, if you're planning on coming to BET, come and visit Jamf and absolutely come and have a chat with Jordan and the guys at Caligo. If you've got any questions about anything sort of Jamf related, MDM related, you can see the email on your screen at the moment to get in touch with the UK and Ireland education team. We'd love to answer any questions or queries that you've got. And if there is anything that specifically about Caligo, we can always sort of redirect those to Jordan. But obviously, feel free to get in touch with yourself direct. So I think we're coming to the end now. I just want to say a huge thank you. I think the app is amazing. Please go into your Twitter account. Actually, I wonder if maybe Emily can pop that into the chat as well, because there's great examples of actually the students' progress there. We saw some images before they started using it, and then like 6-7 weeks later, it's like it's two different people, right? It's blew my mind looking at how quickly you can see that impact. So please go and have a little look and have a little follow on your Twitter account as well. But yeah, I just want to say a huge thanks for joining us this morning, Jordan, tuning in so early. Everyone at home or school, wherever you're tuning in, and if you're watching us on the catch up, thanks again for tuning in. I see Emily's put your Twitter feed on there. So yeah, just want to say again, thank you to everyone, and we'll see you hopefully at BET, but if not, we will see you back at the Breakfast Club in February. Thanks again, everyone, and have a wonderful Thursday and have a good week.